So here we are. This is our second podcast, and we're tackling a pretty big subject that I'm sure we'll have.
I'm a little bit scared to do this.
This is a scary one. This is a scary one for the simple reason that there are so many opinionated Star Wars fans out there, and I am, for the most part, one of them, but I can let it fly because I love Star Wars just too much to criticize it too badly.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved the Star Wars universe, all of that stuff. I haven't dug into a lot of the lore. I've pretty much stuck to the movies. Anything that's in the movies I should know or remember, but, you know, I know there's a lot of books, a lot of comics, a lot of, you know, games, you name it, there's Star Wars that. I don't know a lot. I know some of it, but I don't know a ton about that kind of stuff. So This is where...
And I'm a little nerdier. I dig into the books and the comics, and although you played more of the video games than I have.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, like Force Awakens. Force Awakens.
Force Unleashed.
Force Unleashed, yeah. So anyways, before we get any further, we're the Geek Philosophers.
We're not Greek.
We are not Greek. And I'm Billy.
I'm Yan.
All right, so we're the Geek Philosophers, and very much a disclaimer right off the bat. If you're listening to this and you have not seen Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, then you may want to stop this, go give it a watch really quick, and then come back and listen to this.
Well, really quick. It's like an over 2-hour movie. But...
It's 2.5 hours, yeah. So we've seen it twice up to this point. So there's 5 hours of beautiful Star Wars-ness, even though, well, we'll get to it. So just please just know that we are spoiler-filled, and we will be talking about a lot of plot points and everything and about the movie. So please... turn it off right now if you're not interested in hearing some spoilers. We'll get right to it. The last podcast that we did was on Black Panther, and we found that it was a little too detailed. We laid out the plot a little too much, so we'll try to skim this down a little bit. So right off the bat in this movie, you can see where there's a chase. A chase is afoot, where you know that the Resistance is getting chased by the First Order, and that's, believe it or not, what the premise is for a good chunk of this movie. The
entire movie.
Almost the entire movie is that the rebellion's on the run. And I guess, first off, what do you think of that whole premise? Because it's so different from any other Star Wars movie, right?
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember how The Force Awakens ended, because the First Order took a pretty big hit at the end of that one. So, I mean, I'm not sure I could piece both of them, because in The Force Awakens, they blew up their new Death Star, which was the size of a planet. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, the rebellion is basically...
they're good to go again.
Well, the First Order
the rebellion,
yeah. The rebellion's on the run again.
Yeah.
They're on the down and out. They're like, oh crap, this is our... You know, we need to run or we're dead. We're dead in the water here. So I'm not sure how exactly that happened.
That's a good point, because if you think about it, the stuff that happens on the island with Rey and with Luke, it's like they didn't skip a beat.
Oh yeah,
it
so
just
that's
continues smoothly, right, or seamlessly,
and then,
right?
So Leia is not a good commander, because if she just blew up a planet and she's almost dying again, like, come on, woman, get it together here.
Where have you been? So essentially, that's what the main premise of this is, and everyone that you've gotten familiar with for the most part is on this shuttle from the first movie, or let's say not the first movie, but the first of this trilogy, except for Rey, Chewie, and R2 are the only ones on the island with Luke, right? So Poe plays a pretty big role in this one as far as just being the instigator. He's the one that doesn't want to just keep running. He wants to find these ways to fight back, to not just keep running, everything like that, right?
He's the Han Solo.
That's it. The interesting thing about this, and I'm not going to stick right to the plot of this movie because I didn't like what we did the last one. So this is us kind of learning our trade here. But what I didn't like too much is that they actually got followed in hyperspace. They followed them in hyperspace because they said they were tracking them. Mm-hmm. And it's an interesting thing because in a lot of Star Wars fiction, it's all fiction. So
what?
I actually come to believe that it's non-fiction.
But it happened in a galaxy far away. How do you know?
Big a fan I am. But no, in a lot of Star Wars stuff, that's the main getaway method, is going to hyperspace, right? So I'm not sure if I missed something to say that they have this capability
they
now.
They do kind of cover that in this movie, where it happens. The rebellion doesn't know. They jump to light speed. And for once, the hyperdrive is not leaking. Mark your calendars, everybody, because the hyperdrive actually
That's because
works.
they're not on the Millennium Falcon.
That old piece of junk. But anyway, so they jump to Lightspeed, and then when they come out of Lightspeed, they think they're tickety boo. They're like, hey, we got away, yay! And then the First Order shows up.
There's Hux.
And they're all shocked, and then that's when Leia kind of figures out. She says they're tracking us through hyperspace. Like, this is impossible, but they figured out how to do. So it is a new feature, which is probably why we've never seen it before.
But First Order, hey, maybe they're talking to the people from Black Panther. They got some of their
Wakandans.
Yeah, they got some of their vibranium.
The vibranium running the hyperdrive. That's why it doesn't leak anymore.
Yeah. So. And sorry about the spoiler on that, if that spoiled any Black Panther stuff, but if you would have watched episode 1 of our podcast, then you'd be right in the loop.
So that's on you.
Yeah, that's on you. So what it comes down to, and we should mention the First Order, because all those guys are still the same too. Kylo Ren, Hux, General Hux is still there, and Snoke is their supreme commander, supreme leader. Now, Hux, I should mention that, what did you say his name is in real life?
Domhnall Gleeson.
Domhnall Gleeson, and it's kind of funny because just last weekend, I saw him in Peter Rabbit. He was actually the main, what do you call it, protagonist? Is that the bad guy or the kind of
antagonist?
Poop disturber?
Protagonist. I think is the main guy.
Anyway, he's kind of like one of those guys, but he looks nothing like he does as Hux because they make him look gaunt. And
I still think the funniest kind of comparison is Ex Machina, because both Domhnall Gleeson and Oscar Isaac, who plays Poe Dameron, are in that movie, and they look nothing like they do in this movie.
You'd wonder if they're buddies, and it was like, hey, I got this new Star Wars movie there.
I know the perfect guy to play General Hux.
Who was the in for the other one, right? So, but he's great. Hux is pretty good. So, anyways, we get into your typical Star Wars stuff here. So now, you see that initial space kind of battle where there's a couple of big explosions. Something that's worth mentioning here is the fact that they take out a dreadnought, which is a big deal,
which is new too, because I don't think we've seen, or at least I don't remember that.
Yeah, there were dreadnoughts before.
Really?
Yeah.
Like in Force Awakens or before that?
You got me. I've just heard the term before this movie.
Because I know that in Episode 6 with the Ewoks, they had the Super Star Destroyer, and that was like the big deal. That's the one that stabbed the Death Star at the end.
Oh, yeah.
So then Force Awakens, maybe they invented Dreadnought?
Not sure. But Dreadnought, big old thing that they can't really take down, and they wind up taking it down. So that's the cool thing about that. But that explosion unto itself was beautiful. But the thing is, the effects in these new Star Wars movies are just second to none. Pretty cool scenes there.
Now, you're a bigger fan than I am, so maybe you can answer this one. But they did something in this movie that I haven't seen in other ones, and it was a result of this dreadnought being blown up. So this Snoke guy, who's the big bad Sith leader, obviously not pleased that this dreadnought got blown up, and he's not pleased with General Hux. And in typical Star Wars fashion, they have these little hologram kind of communication systems, and Snoke ends up force throwing around Hux, but through this hologram. And I've never seen that before. I mean, you've seen it, Vader on like a video comm, but they're in the Death Star at that point, or one of the Star Destroyers, and he kind of chokes out one of his generals. But I didn't know you could do that through holograms.
Yeah, well, I guess when you see some of the stuff that happens in this movies, when they can talk over they see each other's right in front of each other. So they've kind of gotten to a point where the Force isn't what's right in front of you, Force throwing things or anything like that. It's kind of ethereal.
But that was kind of a, wait, we can do that? Is the Force being upgraded here? Like, I didn't know you could do that through holograms.
Now, can the hologram Force lightning, though? That's what I'd like to see.
Maybe
just
in episode 9.
It's just enough just to give you a little shock.
It's just a malfunction in the hologram technology.
Yeah. So yeah, we find out that Kylo Ren is kind of on the outs. Snoke is just kind of pissed off at both of them. He's just kind of grouchy, and he looks like he should be grouchy.
Wow, he's got holes in his face.
That's a funny thing. We should talk about Snoke. So first things first. That's Andy Serkis that plays his character. Although
I
didn't
know that.
You'd never really clue into that. But so the thing about Snoke, and this is something that had a lot of the online pundits and everything annoyed, is we never really find out what this guy's deal is, why he's disfigured, how he became supreme leader, anything like that. And that may be a movie that'll come along eventually, or a story that'll come along. And it's funny because a lot of this director for this movie, his name is Ryan Johnson. A lot of people thought he was just making decisions like that just to get on the gears or grind the gears of the pundits, right? And you know what? Speaking of Ryan Johnson, I find it odd that J.J. Abrams was the director of the Force Awakens. It's weird that you wouldn't get the same director or directors to do the trilogy, right?
Yeah.
To have that continuity there.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyways, I find that to be. I wonder if there's going to be. Do you know if there's going to be a different director for the third? So episode 9.
I have no idea. There's an episode 9. What?
There will be, I'm sure.
Spoiler alert.
Wow, they got to resolve some of this stuff. This one kind of ends on a dark note. So I guess when we get down to it, we get to the island, and the island is called. What's the island called again?
No idea.
It's called No Idea the Island. It's No Idea Island, and I have a Act 2. Act 2 is the island. The reason why they're on this island is because supposedly it's where the first Jedi temple was, and it's like the perfect epitome of balance.
Because it's run by frog nuns?
Yeah, what are those?
I don't know what those are.
Luke's minions. Yeah. Luke kind of hangs out with. They look like lizardy frog nuns.
Like
and
toad. I don't know what they are, but they don't ever speak or anything.
They don't speak, and even when bad stuff kind of happens to them, they just kind of gawk around like nothing's going on. So he shares the island with them and with porgs.
Porgs,
called. They never really say. Do they even say that those are porgs, or is that just something?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think I heard them saying they were porgs in the.
So
although, do they ever say Ewoks in Return of the Jedi? They must say Ewoks somewhere in there.
I think so. Yeah, they must. I don't
know. So, if you haven't seen this movie, and if you didn't like Ewoks, although at least they're not like a dominant plot point or anything.
They're more like puffins.
Yeah, they're minions. They're kind of like minions almost.
They don't do anything though. Although the one had a VR headset in the Millennium Falcon.
What was he doing, right?
I don't know.
And I just find it odd that they have Chewie mostly hanging out with the porgs more than anyone.
Well, because he's eating one at the start, then he kind of feels bad, and then he just adopts about 700 of them.
That's a bad trade for friends, though, when you think about it. Usually you'll hang out for decades with Han Solo, coolest dude in the universe, and trade him in for a big old batch of porgs.
Yeah. Although they're friends you can eat, apparently.
Maybe they can fix the
hyperdrive?
Yeah.
Throw a couple porgs in there.
So, I guess what it comes down to is that Snoke just isn't happy with Kylo Ren. Doubts him, can feel that he's got some good in him.
To be fair, though, I wouldn't be happy with Kylo. Like, dude's got some major emotional issues.
I'm pretty sure this movie he cried more than...
I have in my whole life.
Come on! That's not true. That's not true. So... Kylo Ren walks away all mad, all scorned kid there. Yes, and he actually smashes his helmet. So, what are your initial thoughts of him smashing his helmet? Really?
He's done with Darth Vader. He's done trying to be Darth Vader.
See, I'm like, dude, you just killed the only thing that made you cool. that was what I was thinking there. Because I don't know about you, but dude should have kept that mask on for the first movie.
But how else are we going to see his wide range of emotions, Bill?
Yeah, right. But just... He shouldn't have smashed it. Like, get a different mask, maybe a creepier one. Maybe wear that mangled Darth Vader mask that he was praying to in the first one. He just needs something to make him look cooler because...
Yeah, because he's just got like this pouty... You can't be
It's not even a baby face.
No,
it's, not
it's
a baby
just like
face.
An overly emotional Nicolas Cage face.
Yeah, like an emo...
Yeah, it's just... Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, well, so... Yeah, so that's what happens there is... We get to, and then it bounces around between that. We go back to the island. You find out that there's actual Jedi texts. What do you think of these Jedi texts? Anything really to say about those?
Not really. I think Yoda summed it up pretty good in there.
Yoda summed it up, but the funny thing is, I don't know if you watched much of the Clone Wars, but it was all about these cubes, the holocrons.
Oh, right, yeah. So, I saw those in games. They gave me experience points.
There you go. Like I say, you played the games more than me. So they had these holocrons, which supposedly... I'd assume, had the contents of these texts on them, right?
You'd think.
So why would you need said texts if these holocrons, although you never see holocrons in any of the middle trilogy, let's say.
And they keep them inside of a dead tree. If these texts are so important, find a better storage spot than this thing.
Wasn't a whole lot of security, no lasers.
And lasers. I'm pretty sure the moisture in there would pretty much rot the pages out, because they said these things were thousands of years old.
Yeah, the Smithsonian or whatnot would be unimpressed.
Oh, yeah.
Unimpressed. So I guess what it comes down to, and because we're kind of timeline jumping a bit in this movie, assuming everyone's seen it, what happens to the text?
They get torched.
Yoda nukes them and laughs about it, right?
Oh yeah, well,
he just
I mean,
laughs
classic
about it.
Yoda.
Yeah. Now, speaking of Yoda, something I liked. What did you find with Yoda in this one?
He moved a little more robotic, like the way the puppet Yoda did.
Puppet. That was the big thing with this, is he was the puppet instead of the
was
lame...
the puppet?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And they had Frank Oz come back and voice him and everything like that.
That's awesome.
But not the CG. It wasn't CG Yoda, which honestly, aside from when he was kicking ass pretty much, I found him really weird and lame.
It just because we grew up with the puppet Yoda, right?
That's it, right? So soon after that, bad stuff happens. Kylo Ben, or what do you call it?
Darth Ben.
Darth Ben is what Yan usually calls him. Winds up taking away and blasting a good chunk of the lead shuttle. So we're back to where they're getting chased.
Yeah.
And Leia's in the lead shuttle here, the bigger of these rebellion shuttles, right? Or Resistance. They're not the Rebellion anymore. They're the Resistance. It's not the Empire. It's the First Order.
And it's not Darth Ben that shoots it, by the way.
It isn't?
No, because they sense each other, and there's a very emotional moment where you probably see a few tears roll down Darth Ben's cheeks.
Well, of course, even if there was no...
It's like Christmas morning, and he's still crying, I swear to God. But he senses his mom is there, and he actually takes his thumb off the trigger, and it's one of his minions that he's probably going to cry punch later on that fires the shots and blows up the room where Leia's in.
Yeah, so, and then we get to the famous or infamous, I think it's both, right? But the scene that a lot of people didn't like, and it's where Leia's floating around in space. You see her kind of crystallizing a la Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Crystallizing. So, and then eventually she opens her eyes, puts her hand out toward, as if, you know, how Luke would or Rey would when they're grabbing their lightsaber, and essentially pulls herself back into the ship.
Which, I've seen this coming for a long time now. I actually thought it would be a little more epic. That, I guess what people are pissed off at is
so you're talking about the reveal that she's
able to use the Force.
Okay.
And I thought, for sure, this was my whole theory after I saw The Force Awakens, was Darth Ben goes in and he stabs Han Solo, right? So, kill the father off. So my whole theory was that in this one, it would obviously be revealed that Leia has the Force and she's got some training, and okay, we just had a Yoda ringtone go off.
That's how much of a geek I am. My text message notification is Yoda. Message from the dark side there is. Sorry, go ahead.
So anyway, so my whole theory was for sure, like, you know how in episode 2 where Dooku's fighting with Obi-Wan and Anakin, he gets the best of them. And then Yoda walks in, and everybody's like, oh my God, we're actually going to see Yoda fight. And there's this big, like, awe moment, right? For sure, I was thinking that's exactly what would happen here, is that at some point in this movie, Darth Ben would get the best of Rey. And then right before he's about to saber her down, Leia would walk in, and the same kind of awe moment would be like, oh my God, the mom's got Force powers, and she would do backflips like Yoda did. And eventually, I figured she was going to die. The way Han Solo did, but I thought, you know, that she would actually have...
You thought she'd actually flip around like a Jedi with a lightsaber?
I thought she would have an epic fight scene with her son and eventually die.
I totally didn't. I thought, if anything, a blaster. She's always been good with a blaster.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
And hair, like a hair curler or something.
But there's just so much to talk about with that particular scene, because like you say, it shows that at the very least, she's not any type of Jedi or anything like that, and she's more than Force sensitive, because Force sensitive means you can feel, you know, like, you know, she go, Luke,
yeah,
you know, she can feel a sense of, but you just figure that's a twin thing, right?
Yeah.
You just figure that's a twin thing and not Jedi stuff. But the thing is, if you can pull yourself toward an object, that's getting toward more Jedi tricks.
But why would anybody ever think that she didn't have that? She's a Skywalker, and they go on and on about the Skywalker bloodline like it's golden.
You never know, but here's
the
thing.
How
would it
be
that? If she can do that, if we went back and had a look at episodes 4 through 6,
yeah,
I bet you we could pick a few spots where you'd go, why didn't she do this? Why didn't she do that?
Now, keep in mind, though, that Luke had the training. They didn't know in episodes 4, 5, and 6 that they were brother and sister until only later on. And at that point, they're in the middle of war and
what
trying to blow up the Death Star. So after episode 6 is where I think, okay, hey, we're twins. You can do all this cool stuff. Maybe I can do this cool stuff. Oh,
you figure Luke showed her a few things.
Well, why wouldn't he? Like, hey, man, you're the same blood as me.
Maybe he wants to protect her.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah, he cares about her. Now, you got to admit that Princess Leia's dad, Bail Organa, you got to admit that he kind of dropped the ball as a dad, because he could have been, hey, you might kind of have Jedi powers. Maybe we should.
Well, no, because that was a big secret. They didn't want to. The Jedi were dead at that point.
Dude,
they were in hiding.
Okay, if you're my kid and I'm trying to hide you from like some Imperial forces, I'm gonna let you know you have Jedi powers because it's cool. Okay?
Well, yeah, it's cool, but the whole reason they gave them to her or gave her to him was because they didn't want Anakin tracking him down.
Show someone, dude.
Why didn't Luke
learn anything about Jedi
powers when he was on Tatooine?
If I could give you Jedi powers right now, I would, even if it meant the police banging on your door to hunt you down. Honestly, it's Jedi powers.
That's because you're not a great friend.
This is true. So I guess if we're getting back to the Leia scene, so here's the thing that I have an art problem with. Jedi, when it comes down to it, they can die. We saw that a lot. We've seen a lot of Jedi die. We've seen Qui-Gon and Jinn get... So it's not just by death by a lightsaber or anything like that. So how come space doesn't affect her at all? The effects of space being in...
I don't know enough about what would happen to a human body in space if there is.
Have you seen Gravity? Have you seen Gravity?
I have.
Bad stuff happens. Okay. So I guess what I come down to is forget about all the Force-sensitive Jedi powers, everything like that. Why didn't she just die?
Well, why didn't Chris Pratt die in Guardians of the Galaxy?
Because he had his little mask thing?
No, he didn't.
He did.
He gave it to, or not Nebula, what's the other girl?
Green Girl?
Yeah.
She-Hulk?
Neytiri there from Avatar. Anyway, so one of them was crystallizing the same thing, and then they just swapped masks. So nobody complained about that.
They swapped masks. You just admitted to it.
Yeah, but they were out there for minutes, and then they swapped masks, and both of them lived. So she was out there for less than 13 seconds.
So back on point here, because I'm starting to lose this argument. Did you think this is how they were going to kill Leia off because of her passing in real life?
No.
You didn't think that at all?
No.
Because we knew, well, obviously we knew because it was before the movie was released, that Carrie Fisher had passed on.
Right.
You didn't think that was how they were going to do it cleanly?
I think I had like a fleeting thought of that, but I figured no, they're going to kill her off in a more epic way.
I guess.
Because it's not even Darth Ben that did it. I was sure Darth Ben was going to be the one that killed her.
I wonder what they're going to do for the next movie.
I don't know. But
all CG like her.
I read something, and this is nothing to do with the movie, but Mark Hamill had revealed that Episode 7 was supposed to be Han Solo's final farewell, and Episode 8 was Luke Skywalker's final farewell, and Episode 9 was supposed to be Leia's kind of final farewell. These next 3 movies were supposed to be
end of an era.
The 3 main characters kind of passing the torch and moving on.
Yeah.
But now that Carrie Fisher passed, they're not. They've apparently had to rewrite large portions of Episode 9.
I'm sure they had, because if it's anything like these first 2, let's say, they were characters all the way to the end of the movie.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Not to foreshadow how our podcast is going to end here, but
now I mean the good news is with the technology today, like if you look at Rogue One?
Yeah.
They were able to recreate young Carrie Fisher and what was the other guy, the Tarkin?
Moff Tarkin.
Yeah, Moff Tarkin, and they looked pretty good. CGI digitally recreated.
Yeah, they were pretty good, but you could still tell.
Yeah, you can tell, but I mean, story-wise, they'll probably end up doing something like that.
I guess.
Kind of just.
So, is that all we can say about that scene? It had a lot of. They called it. You know what they were calling it? They're calling it the Mary Poppins scene.
She didn't have an umbrella.
Yeah, and a little briefcase and a hat and whatnot. So
I didn't mind that scene. Like I know there's a lot of like, oh my god, but I was like, it's about time she uses the Force. Like, come on, Leia, get your shit together.
If it's gonna be used, may as well use it to save your own hide, right? Yeah, I guess so. So I guess just to keep moving along, this is kind of around the same spot. So Leia's out of the commission there. She's laying in the bunk. She's getting all backed up there. And so we meet Laura Dern, who's playing. She's Vice Admiral. What's her name? Holdo?
Hollock? I don't know.
Murlock.
So Murlock.
And so she kind of takes over, and you can see right off the bat that her and Poe don't get along.
Holdo.
Hodor?
Holdo.
So yeah, we meet her, and you see that she seems like she doesn't care. She really does seem like she doesn't care, but she does have a plan. It turns out she does have a plan.
Yeah.
I don't have much else to say. I wasn't expecting raptors to come and eat her.
No. She was a little tougher in this one than she was against those raptors.
Yeah. So this is where we get to. I find a part of this movie that I wasn't a big fan of.
The casino part?
No, just that whole. It almost seemed like they had to give Finn something to do. It just seemed like they had to give Finn something to do, and I had problems with. And don't get me wrong, I love Star Wars. I'll tell you up and down. And I actually didn't mind this movie for as much as, I'm not sure if this comes off with a negative tone our entire podcast or not, but this is the part, there's a 20 minutes to half an hour, this whole Finn thing to go find the code breaker.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of, and it really, what I found it paralleled to me was, and I'll say episode 1, although most people would tell you that's about a 2.5 hour lull is the entire movie. But you know how the pod racing scene in episode 1 just felt like
a time
throw
filler
in?
almost, yeah.
I find that's what this seemed like. And I know there was a main goal of getting the code breaker.
Yeah.
And it didn't even... Did they even get the guy they wanted?
No,
or was that kind of douche-looking guy at the table?
Yeah, so it was the guy with the purple flower.
Yeah.
They brought Maz back.
So they really screwed up their mission regardless.
Because when they're coming back, they say, hey, did you get a code breaker? Or the code breaker? And they say, well, we got a code breaker. But yeah, I thought the same thing. I found it was too formulaic, where you have to give the heroes a quest to go on to get an object to fulfill their mission. That's exactly what I thought this was.
Yeah.
Like, all this other big stuff is going on. Rey is on the island training with Luke. Leia's trying to fight for her life and save the rebellion or the resistance or whatever they're called now.
Yeah.
And then, kind of like you said, they had to give Finn something to do, so they kind of just sent him on this mission to go, like an errand, basically. Go pick up this thing and, save us all. And it was kind of just... It
turns into a bit of a weird save the animals type thing, too.
Exactly.
There's an undertone. Now, the one thing I did like from all that is I really like Benicio del Toro.
Yeah.
And he was perfect for this. He's just shady looking, right? He's shady looking and twitchy, and you never totally know 100% what he's saying. Yeah. So he was perfect for this. What did you think of Rose? What did you think of the introduction of that character?
It was okay. I mean, you kind of got introduced to her twin. I guess it was her twin or just her sister earlier on.
Yeah.
During that initial dreadnought scene.
Mm-hmm.
She was fine. I didn't mind her as a character.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I kind of chuckled at, too, is where they end up having to go to get this code breaker. And I feel like they use this line in every Star Wars movie, but they always talk about a different place. Mm-hmm. But it's the exact same line. We're going to a place where they have the worst people in the universe.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they use that when they're going, I think, to Mos Eisley there on Tatooine, because it's like... And then Jabba's palace is filled with all the worst people in the universe. And it seems like every time they always use that same line, but they're going in completely different places.
That's true. They always say that about the under like the lower levels of Coruscant.
Yeah, exactly. It's the worst people in the universe. Or was it
the Outer Rim?
Maz's palace? Don't stare. It's the worst people like that. Like, come on. Like, enough with that line already.
That's true. Well, I guess it's almost like I got a bad feeling about this.
Yeah, it's just, come on.
Yeah. So we get through that scene, and they got their, not the code breaker, but a code breaker. They come out of there. Whatever. The one thing that I found, too, that I'd like to hyper criticize as far as that goes, is right near the end, all these pods are heading to the planet or whatever, okay? To foreshadow a little bit. They're getting picked off. They're getting picked off by Hux and those guys. So how come they were able to jettison Rose and Finn and those guys out in this little ship, and they didn't get picked off just as easily to go down and do this mission?
Because I think they jumped to light speed almost immediately. Like, you saw them leave the main
I guess they were light
ship,
speed coming
and
back.
Then,
you saw that, eh?
Because even...
Hurry up, they're going light speed! Shoot! Oh, I missed them.
Even Vice Admiral Purple Hair there, what was her name?
Hodor?
Vice Admiral Hodor. Remember, she saw the blip on her radar. She said, oh, what was that? And they said, oh, nothing. It was just passing debris.
Yeah.
But it's because as soon as they left the main cruiser, they popped to light speed.
Okay, I'll lay off on that then. I don't mean to hyper criticize.
Leave Finn alone. Give him his mission there.
Finn, I found Finn was almost... he could have actually died at the end of the last one, and he would have been same kind of... I don't know. I didn't like him in this one. I found he was so important in the...
He was the dude in Force Awakens.
That's it.
And then this one, he was kind of just...
Yeah. Anyways, so I guess the other thing too is that we should touch on is the fact that Darth Ben and Rey can communicate and almost like they're... Well, they even touch each other.
That sounds bad.
And they touch each other.
They play doctor.
They touch each other, and the thing is, they touch hands. So they can actually not just see each other through the Force, they can talk to each other. He even sees Luke behind her, so it's not as if they're just seeing each other in this weird plane of existence.
Although they did say at one point that they couldn't see each other's environments.
Yeah.
But then at one point, too, after one of their communications, Rey's kind of standing on the shore and she's got the seawater splashing up on her. Yeah. And then when their communication breaks, Darth Ben's got seawater in his face.
Well, I didn't notice that.
No? Because remember, he wipes it off with his hand and he's got some all over in his clothes.
It's just sweat. He's super nervous.
He's probably crying again. That's what it was.
Yeah, his tears flew up on his forehead.
She hung up on me!
But the interesting thing there is later on, it's not that they are able to communicate with each other. Snoke actually says that he facilitated their communication, so he might have pulled them together for the simple reason to lure her in. Now, here's the other thing that I was thinking with all that, too. I know, and I guess we'll get to it right now, but it ties in, is that everything's been about where's Rey come from? Is Luke her dad?
Who's her parents?
Is this and that, right? So my thought here is, and I remember the first couple of times I watched this, is that almost like how Luke and Leia can communicate, I almost wondered maybe these two are twins.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure that's what a lot of people are thinking. And I think it'd be kind of unfortunate to do that again, you know, because they were saying that, of course.
Especially because there's so much sexual tension between them now. That's just getting,
true.
Very incesty.
That's a good point, yeah. But then again, Luke kissed Leia.
Yeah, but...
So, anyways, that's
the
other thing. She never
saw Luke with his shirt off. And really high pants.
Do we have to talk about, why did he have pregnant pants on?
That's like the new I want to wear my pants like that now.
He's got those ones with the elastic waistband.
You can have like extra turkey at Thanksgiving with pants like that.
So, throughout all this, we actually try to find out, or we get to find out from different viewpoints, what the heck happened. Because Luke had it going on. He was he was pretty much like Yoda with his Jedi temple. He had a big Jedi temple, and he had a bunch of students who were all Jedis, and Kylo Ren...
They were Padawans, Bill, not Jedis.
Well, they were getting there. They were right there. They were days from graduation.
Not quite.
They had their blue robes on with the tam.
Their blue sabers.
Yeah. So they were right there, and then we find out from Luke that he sensed evil in Kylo Ren and tried to whack him, but Kylo Ren fought back, kind of won. And this is what I found was the interesting thing that I just caught when we watched this the second time. He said, or no, it was Kylo Ren said, I took a handful of Jedi. And
no, it was Luke.
Was it Luke?
Yeah, because he said he woke up.
Oh, yeah.
And
a handful of Jedi were missing, along with Kylo Ren was gone.
And he'd slaughtered the rest of them.
So that's what we're thinking is, where the heck are these Jedi? Because they're nowhere to be found now. So I wonder if they're going to come out of the woodwork in Episode 9, whoever they were.
Maybe.
Or are. So... yeah, so different viewpoints, you know, believe who you will. This is what Rey has to, the challenges that Rey is forced with.
And I gotta say I'm not surprised that Luke was not a very good teacher, because there's no Jedi Masters anymore. The only one that trained Luke was Yoda, and Yoda's kind of a crackpot. Like, he's not the great,
Dude, he was 900 years old. You gotta give him a break, okay?
Yeah, but like, that's the only Jedi training Luke had. Speaking of the training, like, when Luke was getting trained, what did Yoda make him do? Like, the first thing, he said, use the Force to do this.
Was it to lift a rock or pull his X-Wing out of the
swamp? Pull his X-Wing out of the water, right? And Luke said, no, it's too heavy, I can't do it. And Yoda did it.
Yeah.
Did you notice in the scene where Rey is first on the island and she's walking around and she looks down the cliff and there's an X-Wing in the water?
Yeah.
I was sure. I'm like, they're going to reuse this thing. Luke's going to be like, lift the ship out of the water, and she's going to be able to do it. So I'm happy they didn't go that way, because it was just too much.
Would have been pretty easy, I guess, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. So I guess we can talk about the training on that island. He didn't really train her a whole lot.
No, she kind of figured everything out on her own.
Yeah, he kind of just messed with her more than anything. So I guess since we're talking about the island once again, a big thing that had a lot of people theorizing about, and I know the one place I'd seen it was I think it was even A New Hope. They have blue milk on the breakfast table or whatnot at Luke's aunt and uncle's place on Tatooine, and I think he drinks at a few other places. I'm not sure if he gets one in Mos Eisley, or there are another couple of places where the blue milk comes up.
See, I'd never ever heard of this.
You never heard of the Smurf milk?
Never, no.
So the one thing that this did answer, although we didn't get a whole lot of answers for a whole lot of things, is where the blue milk comes from.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, reading some people's opinions online, it just goes to show that no one's ever happy, because you'd think, yay, we got an answer for where the blue milk comes from, but it's from some weird bird thing's boobies.
Yeah.
And Luke drinks her straight, right? Luke drinks her straight,
well,
like
they
barely
make
out
weird
of the
orgasm noises too when he's milking them.
That's
too.
true. Yeah.
These weird force manatees.
And I like how he looks at Ray and he's got it dripping from his beard and he's just pleased as pie with his probably still fresh and warm blue Smurf milk. So yeah, we find out that, amongst other things. Then we get to that was one thing I wanted to mention before I move on, is the fact that the whole thing, to kind of jump back a little bit, about him keeping an eye on Darth Ben, Kylo Ren, let's say, or Ben Solo, it almost parallels something that I'd read about Obi-Wan keeping an eye on Luke.
Right.
Where he wasn't just there to make sure that Luke eventually uses his talents for the side of good. He was there to make sure that Luke doesn't go to the dark side. So you'd almost, and there's a bit of a parallel there, right? Where you'd almost wonder if the same type of thing might have happened with Luke if Obi-Wan would have noticed something and tried to whack him in his sleep, right?
Well, why didn't anybody pay attention to Leia?
Yeah, Bail Organa did.
Bail Organa's not forced
no.
person. He doesn't know what the hell she's doing.
So you mean for the dark side?
Yeah.
Maybe they just realized
she's a woman? She's not going to use the Force?
No, they wouldn't go there. I'm sure they wouldn't go there. So I guess they actually get to a planet which we find out later is Laura Dern's whole, Hodor.
Yeah.
We find out it's her whole plan to get to this planet, which is a very secure rebel base that was there. So their plan is to get there, jettison all the people in escape-type pods or smaller ships, while someone stays with the ship still running, and that type of thing.
Yeah, because they have a cloaking. That's why they weren't getting picked off initially. Is they cloaked all of the escape pods, and basically all the focus was still on the main cruiser. And part of Finn's mission was to get this codebreaker guy onto the big Star Destroyer. I guess it's Snoke's ship, right?
Yeah.
But that codebreaker kind of screwed the whole plan because they got caught, so he cut a deal. And he ended up uncloaking the ship. So that's when they started getting picked off.
He messed up a lot of stuff. And the thing is, it even just goes more to show my point about the fact that Finn and Rose's mission was just a jackpot. Because the guy they actually did find helped them not at all.
Exactly.
And Poe's whole plan went down the toilet pretty much because of him.
Yep.
So anyways, just...
And
Finn
while that's happening,
sorry, too. Finn there, buddy. I like you, and you were funny as heck in the first one, but... Anyway, what were you saying?
It's your time to go.
Yes.
While all of this is happening, by the way, so Rey's pretty much fed up with Luke at this point. She hops in the Millennium Falcon, and now she's on Snoke's ship as well.
Yeah, and then we get to an very cool and important scene. This whole thing with Snoke.
So because of all their force touching each other, she kind of believes Darth Ben now, and she's like, oh, there's good in him. He can be turned. I'm going to go and help him. And so she hops in the Millennium Falcon and kind of takes... And then I don't want to sound too nerdy here, but every time ships jump to light speed, they always need, certain time. And I get for movie purposes that it's like to build up suspense. So they're getting shot at and the computer's calculating the coordinates before they can jump to light speed, right? And meanwhile, so here the Millennium Falcon's light speed comes out of light speed. Like, in 1 second, ejects Rey's escape pod and then jumps right back into light speed just so that they wouldn't get shot at. So I thought that was kind of a lame, to me anyways. I thought that was kind of a lame.
You're nitpicking.
But anyway, so Rey's now on Snoke's ship, and her whole purpose there is to go and convince Darth Ben that he's good.
So we get to this whole fight scene, and not to draw this out or detail it out too much, but essentially it winds up with, it looks like Darth Ben wiggling his fingers and actually killing Snoke.
Yeah.
Which... I always find when these big supreme leaders go down, I always just think you can sense everything from across the whole star system. How come you couldn't? And they say that you've shut yourself off from the Force. You've shut yourself off from so-and-so. But, like, Palpatine not sensing that Darth Vader was...
And I found that was I kind of found that was a bit of a cop-out because it's pretty much Episode 6, the big final battle there, was exactly the same thing here. Where, I befriended the Jedi, and now my master is torturing her. So I'm going to turn on him.
Not so much. It's different because then Luke and Darth Vader didn't fight afterwards. They were cool. But in this, Rey and Darth Ben
but
fight.
Still, it's my newfound friend is being tortured. I'm going to turn on my master.
I don't think it was that. I think it was because he was scorned from before and realized this is his way to get to be number one Sith, right?
And
before we get to that, though, hold that thought. Snoke dying really pissed off a lot of people because that meant we didn't get anything from his history. Like, a lot of people even thought he might be Palpatine even. Like, a lot of people had a lot of theories, and this Rian Johnson, the director, who a lot of Star Wars folks hate him.
Really?
A lot of them just hate him, right? And these are the reasons why, is because we got nothing. We got nothing from that. We got nothing about Rey's parents, who incidentally are nobody.
Yeah.
They're nobody.
Well, that's what Darth Ben said.
Darth Ben said that. Know. So the good news, but see, once again, the pundits would say, "Oh, it's her parents," but I wouldn't believe anything coming out of Darth Ben, would you?
No.
Maybe when they're buddies.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe when they're buddies, but near the end there, forget that.
So one thing that was said in that scene, though, and I found this has bugged me for, pretty much the whole Star Wars thing.
Star Wars isn't a thing, man.
It's the lore or whatever the hell. When Snoke is kind of yelling at Darth Ben there, and he's going on and on about the Skywalker bloodline, and oh my God, you could have been the next Darth Vader. I get that Darth Vader's a big bad guy. I get it. But they talk about him like he's the most powerful, in the entire galaxy that can use the Force. But if you look at the movies, like, there's a lot of guys that were way stronger than, like, even Palpatine, Dooku, Yoda, even Snoke. Like, look at the stuff Snoke was doing. Like, that's way above what Darth Vader ever did.
Snoke wouldn't talk him up to be Sith number 1. He wants him to be Sith number 2.
No, I know, but
he's pretty much putting a glass ceiling on him.
But
he's saying, "Hey, dude, I'm not telling you could be president, but you'd be a hell of a vice president here.
You'd be a great Mike Pence." No, but I mean, that's what they always talk about, the Skywalker bloodline. You have that blood. You could be like the new whatever. But I've never seen them do anything all that impressive. Like, compared to the other guys on screen.
The end of Rogue One, Darth Vader's pretty impressive. Just saying. When he's whooping everyone to get to Leia, pretty solid.
But has he ever used Force Lightning?
No. But he's got robot arms, right? Is that a
that
thing?
That would just short circuit his whole body.
Can you do Force Lightning? He'd have to do it out of his feet
out of
or
his
something.
Eyeballs.
So anyways, we'll try to wrap this up because we're kind of going long here. But
are we ever?
So you get to this final scene, let's say, where you're on this planet where all these resistance are all on there. They're in a little Hoth type base, very much a relived Hoth scene, I find.
Oh yeah, totally. They even have the big AT-ATs.
Oh yeah, it's very Hoth, except it's what, salt? Is it salt instead of snow?
Red salt or something.
Yeah, so you get to this, and not to draw it out too much, they're in a cave, and then you see Luke. Yep. Luke comes to the rescue.
Freshly shorn, haircut Luke.
Yeah, he looks like ass-kicking Luke of old. He comes in and just he does the old, he does that after bunch of lasers and stuff, pretty much blow him to smithereens, big crater, and there he is. He pops up, does the old, like the Rock there with the old doop, come and get it type of thing, and then they blast him, and it turns out that he's pretty much still on the island, just projecting himself, which is, you're talking about, can they do this and this and this over hologram or whatever?
Yeah.
I don't think before this you'd seen anyone actually project a second image of themselves. So it just goes to show how
powerful. And he actually had a working lightsaber too. Yeah. Because he was fighting Darth Ben there.
Yeah. So but the unfortunate thing is it took all of it out of him, and all he was doing was stalling to make sure that Rey got everyone out the back of the cave. Do you want to mention anything about the glass foxes?
There were salt foxes. Nah,
not much there.
No,
I wish I had a salt fox.
That would be no, never mind.
So we find out that Luke is no more. He's pretty much gaseous,
forced out.
Yeah, he's forced out, and it's just his cloak sitting on the island. So we're probably gonna see him as a Yoda-like apparition, or like Obi-Wan. Now, this is something that I know a lot of my friends online, some of my really, 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 really geeky Star Wars friends even mentioned that they're done with Star Wars for now. And any Star Wars fan, no matter how deep it goes, will never say, "That's it, I'm done. I'm going to Star Trek." That type
right
of
up
thing.
Until Solo, the movie, comes out, they'll be there.
So they're kind of like that. I'm taking a break. We're not breaking up. I'm taking just a little break.
Just need
right?
some time.
That's it. Just some space. It's not you. It's me. That type of thing. But what really upset them was the fact that Luke wasn't his old Luke. He wasn't kicking a whole bunch of stormtroopers' asses type Luke, and big time lightsaber fight Luke and everything like that. And he kind of was a curmudgeon and kind of did what he had to in the movie. And the thing that I find with all this is that if you think about Obi-Wan in the original, not the original trilogy, but episodes 1, 2, and 3, he's awesome in it.
Yeah.
He's awesome in it. He's young. He's in his prime, everything like that. If you were just to see him, and we did, in episode 4, A New Hope, he's an old guy.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot, he's going against Darth Vader, lightsaber battle just before he gets weed whacked.
Yeah.
And he's not that impressive, and he doesn't do a whole lot except just point the new generation into the right direction.
Exactly.
And I find that's exactly what they did with Luke. So these people that say Luke's legacy was lost, all this, not really, because he's
kind of passing the torch. And that's a good point, because in episode 3, Obi-Wan gets the best of Anakin, right?
Yeah,
He
exactly.
beats him on that weird lava planet.
Yeah.
And then episode 4, he gets easily beaten by Anakin.
Yeah.
And then so this is kind of the same, although Luke didn't get easily beaten, but
still came up on top. So that was the one thing that I found was my main irk from some of my Star Wars buddies that I found didn't really irk me that much. I don't have a whole lot more except for just the fact that this one, and I guess it's almost like Empire Strikes Back, this one ended really dark, and I guess that's the middle. And even you think of Lord of the Rings, the trilogies, the middle part of a trilogy always seems to end dark, so they can really end on a high note for the third part, right? And I found this one ended with a little bit of hope. You see some young Jedis, like the kid at the end.
It's called The Last Jedi.
Yeah, but you see the one kid grab his mop or whatever, shoop, in the Force, it comes right to him. So just there's some hope there, but man, this one ended on a dark note, let's say. Did you want to throw anything else in there?
The new Imperial guards there, the red guys that were protecting Snoke.
Yep.
Not sure why they have weird lightsaber weapons. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, kind of almost like a lightsaber
whip. Yeah, they have a lightsaber whip and a lightsaber swords and lightsaber spears.
Yeah, because they gave them a good run, although there was a gaggle of them, but they gave them a good run, yeah. But overall, so are we ready to rate this one?
Sure.
All right, what would you give this one, your rating out of 5?
I'm going to give it a 4.8 emo teenagers out of 5.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm going to give it 4.5 shirtless Darth Bens out of 5. All right, so thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for sticking with us for around 50 minutes. I hope it's entertaining. We'll find a way for you guys to criticize and give us some topics that are new, but we'll keep putting these up here, and hopefully you guys are liking them. And we'll talk to you later.